What a time to be a Manchester United fan. Yesterday evening's game was probably one of the most tense games of football I have witnessed as a Manchester United fan in quite some time, because it was more than just a knockout game in the Europa League. It felt like a game that we needed to win to make a statement. It felt like a game that we needed to win no matter how we did it, whether it was a pretty performance or a grueling, difficult, competitive performance. Either way, we had to win because it sends a message that this team is serious and this team is capable of beating the best team in the La Liga right now. Barcelona are a team that don't concede a lot of goals. Barcelona are a team that don't really get beat. And Barcelona are a team that have been in magnificent form under Xavi this season. And for us to beat them the way we did is pretty impressive. After going 1-0 down, Manchester United ascended the victors in trademark and vintage fashion at Old Trafford, 2-1 under the floodlights, with a bit of drizzle coming down on a cold, wet European night, attacking the Stretford end. It's vintage stuff, man. The only thing that was missing was the blue theme around the stadium and the Champions League music. That's the only thing that would have made yesterday's game a 10 out of 10 experience as a Manchester United fan, and yet I am still satisfied, and it's all thanks to this man. He is at the epicenter of everything going right for Manchester United Football Club at the moment. I genuinely believe that Erik ten Hag is the catalyst for positivity. He is the catalyst for change. He is the catalyst for the feel-good factor that exists at Old Trafford at the moment and within the Manchester United fan base. Now, he didn't get it right. He didn't get it right in that first half. He changed it in the second half, but he did not get it right in that first half. And I think he himself would admit, with this team, it just wasn't working. There were a few red flags and a few issues in this team that progressed throughout the game. First of all, I think Weghorst was a big issue. Now, Weghorst didn't do anything wrong individually. Individually, I actually thought he tried his best. He pressed really well. He worked hard off the ball. His first touch was pretty decent. I don't remember him losing the ball that much when he was involved on the ball. But off the ball, he was great, right? I think the problem with Weghorst is he just didn't have the pace to hit Barcelona on the break, and he didn't suit the game because Barcelona dominated possession. So most of Manchester United's chances in the first half came from long balls. In fact, our first real big chance of the game comes when Casemiro wins a ball from a Barcelona player in this part of the pitch, and he plays a very quick diagonal ball to Bruno Fernandes, and Bruno Fernandes gets into a 1v1 situation with Ter Stegen, but unfortunately, he just doesn't quite have the minerals to finish it. And you almost felt yesterday that this kept on happening in the first half, where we would get ourselves into good positions, but for some reason, we would just fall apart in the final third. For some reason, we just didn't have that final ball. And part of it is definitely down to a lack of individual quality yesterday. Bruno Fernandes was not great, especially in the final third. I think this was one of his worst games in the right wing position, but I don't think it was just him. I thought Sancho wasn't great in the number 10 position, both on and off the ball. I don't think he works hard off the ball, generally speaking. So from that aspect, he really let us down. He wasn't pressing nearly as intensely and as hard as we needed him to, and it allowed Barcelona to just continue to maintain possession in the middle. But on top of that, on the ball, he just wasn't silky. He wasn't the mercurial footballer that we know Sancho can be, and it really cost us in a big way. On top of that, Marcus Rashford being selfish as usual, running himself into blind alleys, holding onto the ball a lot longer than he should, and you know, it's hard to criticize Rashford because of the vein of form he's in. He's allowed to be selfish because he's scoring so many goals. But in a game like yesterday, when it's clearly not clicking and it's clearly not working, I would have loved if he was a little bit less selfish and tried to simplify things a little bit more. That's just my personal opinion, especially when the game is poised at 0-0 and you don't need any heroics. Right? Like, you've still got 90 minutes to figure this thing out. There's no need to be Mr. Hero. There's no need to take out your cape and try save everybody when you have teammates who are more than capable of assisting you at this level. That's just a personal opinion of mine. But the first goal comes from Manchester United as a result of Jadon Sancho being out wide. This is in the second half when we're already 1-0 down. And Jadon Sancho, I can't remember how the ball gets to this part. I think Barcelona were trying to play their way out of trouble, and a loose ball landed in the path of Jadon Sancho. Marcus Rashford makes a run, so he draws this player out of position, and he forces this player to basically think, am I going to go track Rashford? Am I watching Sancho? What's Sancho going to do? Is he going to pass to Rashford? Is he going to pass to Bruno? Is he going to lay it off to Casemiro? He's confused. You can tell if you go back and watch the replay, this player doesn't really do anything. Sancho's able to play a ball into Bruno. Bruno, by the way, who now draws this player out of position, leaves all this open space here for Fred, and Fred has a clean run through on goal. And Fred, in typical fashion, after having the worst first half performance you have ever seen in your life, turns up for Manchester United. So many people said that Fred should be taken off at halftime, and I could understand it because I myself said Fred was terrible and was one of the issues in that team. But there was just a part of me that felt that Ten Hag was not going to change too much in that half. If anything, he was probably going to take off Wout Weghorst, and he did, and bring on Antony. And he did. He did exactly those two things. It's so nice as a football fan when you think to yourself, you know what I would change? I would take off Wout Weghorst, I'd bring on Antony, and the manager does exactly what you would have done. And I said I would move Sancho off the 10 position and play him on the left, and that's exactly what Ten Hag done. It's so nice as a football fan to have the reassurance that you're in tune with the manager, because oftentimes I think as football fans, we love to play the superiority game. Whereas if you're a football fan who loves analyzing tactics like myself and you love talking about things deeply, people always say, what makes you qualified to talk about football? What makes you think you know more than Erik ten Hag? And it's like, well, the manager did what I said he should. So clearly I know something. I might not be a qualified coach or a qualified manager, but it doesn't prevent me from having a deeper understanding of the game. And I think I'm in tune with Erik ten Hag because his changes literally changed the game. They literally changed the way we played. There were so many situations in yesterday's game where we were able to play an outball to Antony now. In this situation, right? If you take Bruno and put him in the middle, you put Sancho out here, you put Rashford up here, and you take out Weghorst and you put Antony here, right? In this situation, if you play this long ball to Antony, he doesn't need to run all the way to the byline like Bruno Fernandes did. In fact, he can probably just quickly spray a ball into Rashford, who's anticipating this run. Weghorst might have been anticipating this run, but he's never in a million years getting on the end of that ball that Bruno has to play to bypass this defender. So you have Rashford in this position, Sancho in this position, Antony in this position, and the dynamic changes completely because now when you're trying to hit teams in transition, you actually have that pace. And suddenly when somebody gets a long ball from Casemiro from deep, by the way, this happened a lot of times yesterday, it's just that we didn't have the minerals to execute, you have options now. And this defender has to think twice before closing down Antony because now he knows that Rashford's right behind him. This guy's probably watching Sancho, right? And it just changes things fundamentally. And I think it's not a personal attack on Weghorst. I've got no issues with Weghorst as a footballer. I think considering his price tag and considering where he came from, he's actually doing quite well at Manchester United. I'm not going to lie. For a Burnley signing, he's actually exceeded my expectations, which is a difficult thing to do. But I still don't think he's quite good enough for Manchester United tactically in the way that we want to play because agility and pace is so important to be able to mix things up at this level. It's so important. And that extra yard of pace could be the difference between you getting a one-on-one opportunity against Marc-Andre ter Stegen or just not being able to assist your teammates and them having to go by themselves. I genuinely believe that. Now, moving away from the attack, Casemiro was probably the best player. I think Casemiro had a fantastic game yesterday evening. His block, I believe in the first half, was the reason we didn't concede. He basically saved David De Gea because David De Gea is in a very compromising situation. I believe we were trying to play out from the back. Barcelona are pressing up really high. Casemiro, I think, is in this position over here. David De Gea, for whatever inexplicable reason, he receives a quick pass. I believe it's from Luke Shaw or somewhere from the side. And for whatever reason, he tries to smack it forward and it lands in the path of a Barcelona player. And Casemiro comes across so quickly, he prevents this guy from having a clean shot on goal, basically. And remember, David De Gea has just kicked the ball, so he's off balance. He's just tried to whack the ball out. So he's off balance. He ain't saving this shot. And if he is, he probably deserves a statue outside Old Trafford, right? But the fact that Casemiro has the presence of mind to cut across quickly, dive into the tackle, not concede a penalty, and then still block the follow-up shot is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Now, he wasn't the only one. Martinez had a lot of situations where he was the last defender and he saved us from conceding against Barcelona. You could say the same about Rafael Varane. Rafael Varane's positioning yesterday was impeccable. And the fact that people still think that this guy's overrated is laughable to me. There's people who still don't realize the quality that this guy brings to Manchester United, the level of coolness, if that's even a word, and calmness that he brings to that back four. It's unbelievable. It genuinely is unbelievable. And Martinez, likewise, brilliant signing. Absolutely brilliant signing. Now, on ability, I think Varane is the better centre-back of these two, just in terms of ability. But at the moment, on form, Martinez is definitely better. Martinez is ferocious. Martinez is aggressive. Martinez is the type of defender who's proactive. He doesn't care what your plans is as an attacker. He's putting a foot in. He's not going to wait to see what you do first before he decides. He's going to put in a foot. Whereas Varane, he's a little bit more passive. He likes to read the game. He likes to see what you're going to do first and then react afterwards. And that's worked for him. I mean, he's got an amazing CV. But on top of that, he's had great individual performances for both France and Real Madrid in the past. And now Manchester United as well. So I'm not knocking Varane. And if you've been a long-time viewer of the channel, you know that Varane is my favorite player at Manchester United. So I could easily sit here and say, you know, he was man of the match yesterday. But I genuinely believe that Martinez has been better than Varane over the last few weeks in terms of form. Not ability, not career, not CV, just form. I think Martinez has been our best defender and Casemiro has genuinely been our best player. People will say it's Marcus Rashford because of the goals he's scoring, and I hear that. That's a fair argument, but for me, Casemiro is the catalyst. Casemiro is the guy. Casemiro is the reason, outside of Erik ten Hag, that this team is playing as well as it is. I genuinely believe that wholeheartedly. And look, another player I've got to give a special mention to is Antony, because this is a player that, again, I think people get confused, right? A player that I think is amazing, a player that I like at Old Trafford. I just had an issue with his price tag, because for me, I thought paying 80 million for this player at the expense of maybe buying someone cheaper and then using the rest of the money to sign someone else in a different position and address the squad as a whole rather than splashing our budget on one player. I thought that was a mistake. I'm not going to lie. I thought that was a mistake, and I think I was wrong. I think I was wrong in saying that, because I think that Antony, even though he's not an 80 million pound player at the moment, I think you can definitely see the potential. I think you can definitely see the flashes of what he was at Ajax and what he can be at Manchester United. And by that logic, if he lives up to the potential, we'll be looking back on this in 3 years' time saying, actually, that wasn't a bad investment. Actually, we were playing for the player that we thought he's going to become and not the player that we were getting at Ajax. And I think that's a valid point. If he does end up living to the potential, that is a valid point. You know, I think he's going to be a worthy signing for Manchester United. And I think he's proving me wrong now. I think there's been so many moments over the last few weeks, even when he hasn't been scoring, even when he hasn't been assisting, where I thought he just provides balance to the team. He's just the type of right winger that we've been missing for a long time. Firstly, he's a left-footed right winger, so he provides us with that inverted winger option that we never had on the right-hand side. We haven't had a natural right winger till we signed Jadon Sancho, and we haven't had an inverted right winger till we signed Antony, because he's a left-footed player who can cut in from that right-hand side, and he's very different to someone like Jadon Sancho, whereas Jadon Sancho would just hug the touchline, look to play a couple of 1-2s, and then there wasn't really much more to his game. Very simple, very give and go, very balls to feet. I think Antony has a different dynamic. He's just got something about him. And beyond technical ability, I think you can just tell that he's a hardcore boy from the favelas. He's a hard-working player, comes from Brazil, doesn't come from a posh background. He understands the value of hard work. He gets it. He just has that ferocity. He just has that dog in him, that fight, that thing that we just can't quite put our finger on as football fans. But we know, when we see it, we know. Instinctively, we know. It's in the body language. It's in the aggression. It's in the relentless chasing down of loose 50-50 balls. It's in the 50-50 tackles. It's in going the extra mile and just getting it. He just gets it. He just understands what it means to be a Manchester United player, and he plays for the crest, something we haven't had in abundance over the last 10 years. And I just love it. There's not a part of me that thinks that Antony moved to Manchester United solely based on money. There's a part of me that genuinely believes, even though loyalty doesn't exist in the modern game anymore, that this guy came to Manchester United because he wanted to work for Erik ten Hag and because he loves and believes in the project at Manchester United, because I can see it. I can see it in his body language. That's just me, though. Anyways, it's been your boy TripleM. I have waffled on for a bit about how great Manchester United are, but genuinely, yesterday was a great game. Leave a like on the video if you did enjoy. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Otherwise, it's been your boy TripleM. Peace!